We have
Lovely.
to talk about that.
All right, so Spiritual Smorgasbord. I've been wanting to do this for a while. And I'm figuring, and when I came up with this title, I had a whole different idea in mind. And Johanna and I were talking yesterday, and she said, "You know that idea you were thinking about? This talk is perfect for that, because this book, Living the Science of Mind, is truly a spiritual smorgasbord." Now, I believe that everybody is a practitioner. This book is teaching you how to be a practitioner, and they do it in practitioner studies. But it's focused on how we can shift and change our lives in the most dramatic and wonderful ways. So, what we're going to do today is dine out of this book. Okay? Nope, I got him. I bought a new set, and they come like 3 in a box, so I bought 2 boxes. I have glasses everywhere now. And I'm so glad I did, because I've already broken 2 of them. Okay, so I have divided up into 12 sections, so I need a number from 1 to 12.
6.
6 is the first number I've heard. Okay, 6. Let's see. There's no telling what's going to happen today, folks. Okay, 6. Your invisible forces, 227. Here we go. Now, your invisible forces. Oh, yeah. Oh, I liked this one. I have a whole bunch of highlights in here. Well, I'm going to go into this section here. It says, we start with the proposition that all things are possible to God. That God makes everything out of himself by the simple process, or itself, I like to say myself, out of the simple process of becoming the thing it makes. Just as the tree grows out of the ground and the invisible forces of its life turn into foliage, into blossom, into fruit, all silent processes of nature. All right then, let's see what would happen to us should we include ourselves in God's creation. Right at the start, we should learn to have a better opinion of ourselves. I'm not talking about a conceited opinion, for we have learned that we can do nothing of ourselves. We live because we are drawing on the invisible source of all life. The only way that God can work for us is by working through us, and God cannot give us anything unless we take it. He has made the gift of life, or we would not be here. Only God can give life, as only God can make a tree. But we are not living like the tree because we deny the very power which we live. You got that? Yeah. Questions, anyone, about that? See, I want you to listen to it, and then we're going to ask questions. You have a question, we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. Let me read it one more time. We have to start with the proposition that all things are possible to God, that God makes everything out of himself by the simple process of becoming the thing he makes. Just as the tree grows out of the ground and the invisible forces of its life turn into foliage, into blossom, into fruit, all through a silent process of nature. All right then, let's see what would happen to us if we should include ourselves in God's creation. Right at the start, we learn to have a better opinion of ourselves. Not conceited opinion, for we have learned that we can do nothing of ourselves. As Jesus said, the Father within does the work, right? That energy within does the work. He made the gift of life, or we would not be here. Only God can give life, as only God can make a tree. But we are not living like the tree because we deny the very power by which we live. Any thoughts?
How do I include myself in forces of nature?
There. How do I include myself in the forces of nature? I'm going back to that one. All right. So, the first thing, that's good. Thank you for that. I told her I was going to answer her questions because she asks really hard questions. I was rehearsing this last night, and she asked some questions. I said, I'm not calling on you tomorrow. How do we include ourselves in that force? Okay, so the first thing I would think, here's what I do. I'm talking about my own experience. I was flying on a plane one time, and I sit next to a guy who was working with all these different diagrams. I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm working on my new invention. I said, what is it? He says, well, when you cut your finger, what do you do to make the blood stop? I don't do anything. I mean, I might put a Band-Aid on it, or I hold it. You hold it in place. And then what happens? I said, well, then when I take my finger off, the blood stops running. Why do you think that happens? I don't know, it's just because the blood coagulates. Oh, okay. I have created a juice that runs through oil pipelines that will coagulate oil so that when the oil pipeline has a break, it won't leak the oil out. So, whoa, that's pretty incredible. Let's go back to what he asked me, though, in the beginning. I didn't make that stop. Something within me did. That's why I start beginning with that idea that you just asked about, how I include myself in that force of nature and that force of the divine. There's an invisible force within me that not only stops the blood from flowing when I cut myself, but it also keeps the blood flowing by the beating of my heart. It also keeps the brain operating. It's something within me is reminding me to breathe. Sometimes I have to actually I get so freaked out about something. We all have that happen, right? Where somebody says, breathe. You go, yes, because we get so shocked. But there is, even in that moment, when you say breathe, what is it that makes you actually breathe? There's this invisible force, and we're a part of that invisible force. What is it that makes me, like, every time I come over the San Susana Pass. Last night when we had Lane and Leah in the car, we were thinking, it's a shame that we're going through at night. We were trying to describe to them the Simi bubble. What happens when you go over that pass and you drop down into Simi Valley. There's this poof of peace and serenity and calm that happens. What makes that so beautiful? I don't know. There's an invisible force within me that appreciates beauty, that appreciates the smile on a child's face. And that, when I realize those kinds of things, I start to get into the flow of the divine nature that surrounds me. And then it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and reverberates out until I'm included in the entire experience that is life itself. That's my thing on that one. Cool? Does that work? Did I answer your question? Oh, okay, good. Let's try another one. 1 through 12. 3. Ooh, why talk so much about God? 'Cause it's my job. Okay. So I'm just going to read the last couple of paragraphs of this section. I didn't even review this one. I have no idea what it's about. Why so much talk about God? You may ask why we use the God and spirit so much frequently, and why it is that we explain the science of mind that we often speak about the nature of God and spirit. When we use the word God or spirit, we mean intelligent life, which the philosopher calls reality. And what all religion means when they refer to that something in the universe which responds to our consciousness. It is self-evident that such a first cause, such an intelligent cause exists. Let's see how he closed. That's how he opened the essay. Let's see how he closed it. Let's see. Okay, here he goes. When people ask, why do you talk so much about God? Or when they say something to the effect of, they're not interested in religion, be sure to explain to them that you're not offering them a new religion. This is about the science of mind here. You're merely seeking to give them an interpretation of life. You're not even trying to convince them that your philosophy is correct. You are trying to give them a reasonable basis for what they already believe. That is a really important aspect of the science of mind. We're not trying to change anybody else's mind. The science of mind is designed to do exactly what that last sentence says, trying to give people a reasonable basis for what they already believe. He says, always be careful to explain that what you are giving them is just as much theirs as yours. It does not belong to any person. But like the principle of mathematics, this knowledge of God can be used by all. Every normal person wishes to believe in God, and you are giving the student a reasonable explanation for what he already believes and trying to help him understand what he already feels must be so. He closes out, do not be afraid to use the word God or the word spirit. All we need to avoid is any superstitions about the terms. And we certainly should avoid all dogmatic uses of them. In this work, we are making the greatest experiment which the human mind can undertake. We are determining whether or not There is a universal intelligence which responds to us in a creative manner. We are engaged in an endeavor to see how much joy we can take out of this oversoul for ourselves and for others. It's a lot there, huh? A lot to unpack. You're all like crickets this morning. I should have told you last week I was going to do this so you'd come prepared. So, why so much talk about God? Why do you use the word so much? Trying to help someone understand how life works itself and not be afraid of it. How many of you are afraid of using the word God or Spirit when you talk to your friends about it? Yeah? I mean, be fair. Maybe a fear is not the right word.
Place filler.
Say more about that.
Well, it's a place filler. I mean, the Jews don't even spell out God. They
Right.
go G blank D, because if you spell it out, then you're kind of giving it limitation. So I think that's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I prefer something like Spirit, and I also think naming it separates you from it, kind of. Where I believe it's all encompassing. It's all everywhere.
It's all everywhere.
I don't like naming it God.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I've been in the. That's wonderful. In the Monday morning book study, we've been talking about God a lot. We're breaking that book down, the geography of faith, page by page, and I've been playing around with this idea that God is so vast. It's Hindu a little bit. That God's nothing. That God is nothing. But it's everything. It's so massively everything. But the point that I'm struck with is us and creation itself. Until God burst into creation, there's nothing there but the energy, the intelligence, the invisible substance that is all that there is. But then suddenly, suddenly there's a Greg, suddenly there's a Tracy, suddenly there's a Peggy. Now there's creation, suddenly there's a chair. Now there's creation, now there's God in manifestation, and God becomes something. But prior to the experience of creation, I'm wondering what is left. There's just this mass of everything, but so much everything that there's nothing actually there. And I think this conundrum, if we can personify God for a minute, which is the only thing we can do because the experience of God is happening through us and we are persons, so our easiest way to understand God is to personify it. Think of it. You know everything, but you look around and there's nothing. And you're so frustrated, you're like, wow! And then everything burst into expression. I think that was the Big Bang. I think the Big Bang was God's most frustrating moment of knowing everything and looking around and recognizing there's nothing here and went, I think I shall make something in our image. Because when you're everything, if you notice in the Genesis story, God's making everything in our image. It's a plural thing because there's just so much stuff, That's where I'm going with that one. Are we still hanging? All right. We'll figure this out. Somebody's blaspheming God. He's like, here, God's nothing. What do you mean? He's everything. I know. And nothing at the same time. Another number, 1 through 12. 12. Self-awareness is not enough. Wow. Self-awareness is not enough. Well, let's start with the beginning and see what he says at the end. This first paragraph in this essay is, let's talk about the need for meeting situations as they come along, without fear and without in any way trying to avoid them. For every issue of life must be met where it is, and what is wrong must be made right. Every situation, every issue in life must be met right where it is? Okay, we can just close this book right now. But there is that line in the Gospel of Thomas. It goes, what you bring forth will save you, but what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Something to that effect, that there's an idea within us that if we express that idea, it will bring us more fullness. It will bring us more life. If we do not express that idea, it will ruminate around within us until it finally destroys you. Interesting concept. It does seem like in many ways it might be happening, but also I think about our dear friend Michael Beckwith, who says the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. So I think maybe just the truth is becoming free, because a lot of people seem to be quite pissed off, right? Self-awareness without self-expression can almost as readily produce wow. Self-awareness without self-expression can almost as readily produce emotional disturbances as can the lack of self-awareness. That's almost that statement, Gospel of Thomas, I was just talking about. If you know it, right, but you don't do anything about it, it can disturb you emotionally so much that it might even be better to be ignorant, to just not be aware. You know, give me back my ignorance. I was in so much bliss during that time. Let's see how he closes out this paragraph, this essay. I don't know why he's picking on older people. Too frequently, older people become frustrated because there is no longer anything to engage their attention. This is why Dr. Holmes didn't live to be very old. You know, he died like he was 69 or something. He was like, he's I'm out of here. I'm frustrated. I have nothing else to give my attention to. They must find something to take up their time, whether it be gardening or calling on the sick or helping to take care of someone's children. Isn't it interesting how, I'm going to just defer. No, isn't it interesting how age has changed so much this was written in 1951, I think, in 50, 60 years. It has changed dramatically. First off, what is old? Who here feels old? First thing in the morning, it's like, but once you get the tin can man out, it's like, I'm ready to go, It's cool. It's like amazing. When I was in school, Linda McNamara, one of our teachers, has a church in Laguna Woods. Used to be called Leisure World, but they didn't like it because none of the folks down there were in leisure. But you had to be over 55 to live in Leisure World, now Laguna Woods. And so her congregation was full of people that were like 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old. And I've never been to a more active, it's like us. They're just like going, they're just going. And because everybody's older, there's like there's like competition to stay younger than the other person, but they're all old, so they're competing to stay younger than the oldest person there. Does that make sense? Do you get it? So they're like riding bicycles, and they're coming in their yoga pants, and that's a just disturbing sight. But they're just so delightful, and their eyes are so bright, and there's so much energy in their life. I know this is. I know. I just never know what's going to come out of my mouth. I think it's just so inappropriate sometimes, aren't I? Okay.
Does your foot fit?
It totally does. It totally does. And I like my toes. They taste good. Yes. We do not teach people to sit still and monotonously repeat, God is all there is. For while it is true that God is all there is, it is also true that God is everything that is. The creative genius of the universe goes forth into action everywhere. There is no monotony in nature. The individual life must avoid monotony and self-centeredness through self-expression. There he's getting down to it. Consequently, after we have come to self-awareness, we must start expressing, no matter what our age. Engage in the joy of living. Do it with others. The well-integrated person gets along with other people, not by tolerance, but through cooperation. This is the game of life, and it must be played. Oh, you fixed it in the end, Dr. Holmes. That's it. Don't sit on our laurels, right? Get out there every day and express yourself in the best, most possible way. I think that's what he's getting at the bottom of that. Do you agree? You think? I think. Okay. We have time for one more. 7 it is. Simple acceptance. Just simply accept that you do like chewing your toes.
That's disturbing.
Thank you. Thank you. I brought that on myself. Remember, the intellect argues, but the spirit knows. It is the nature of the creative mind to respond to us, to give us what we ask when we ask it, and in the way in which we ask it. One more time. It is the nature of the creative mind to respond to us, to give us what we ask when we ask it, and in the way in which we ask it. Now that's the hook right there. In the way in which we ask it. How much do we ask for that we truly believe we deserve? That we truly have a full image around, that we're not sitting around in the doubt of, I think I want this, but I'm not sure I can do it. So the universe is giving it to you, sorta, because you're not sure, so it's not really sure. That's what the spiritual practice is all about, getting sure that as we ask for what we want, we know that that's what we want, and that we understand that we are in this wholeness, that we have that divine connection, and therefore what we ask for, we deserve, we are worthy of. We have the self-awareness to realize our good and to bring it forth into our lives. And then he says, the childlike mind of absolute acceptance is likened unto the kingdom of heaven. They go along a lot about this childlike mind, and I love that idea. I'm thinking about children. I'm watching some of my friends have newborns or toddlers now, and watching them walk. I mean, it's just amazing how we ever do that, you know, because that's a lot of work. There's a lot of falling down, and that's why they're little, because if we were big falling down like that, it's a longer way to fall. But I'm also thinking about all the things that we learn in life during all the limitations we put on ourselves as we get older that limit us from experiencing the fullness of our lives. And so also our spiritual practice and getting back to that understanding the invisible force that we're a part of, that hidden nature of the divine that's within us, is to remind us that we have the wherewithal that allowed us to learn to walk in the first place. We still have that energy, we still have that divine connection, and we still have the worthiness within us. And through our self-awareness, we have the actual opportunity to do whatever we want to do, and to work around those doubts and those limitations, and to realize that we do live in an infinite universe, and there is a spiritual smorgasbord of life available to us. And so it is. Yes, Cindy.
I'm really loving this. Where do you meet to talk about this?
Oh, Monday mornings in the classroom at 11 o'clock.
Till when?
Till 12:30. Monday, 11 to 12:30.
Is it late to join us?
No, anybody can come at any time. We're reading the book of Geography of Faith, and we have extra copies, and we share copies. So yeah, we just read along, and we stop wherever it feels appropriate to stop and talk about it.
You were reading this?
No. We're reading a different book right now. But we have some of the same conversations that we just had right here now. I think Linda's shaking her head, and Rosita's shaking her head yes, and I don't see John shaking his head yes, he is too. Yeah. He's shaking his hand. He will shake his head, yes. I don't know. But yeah, that's when we do it. Okay? Cool. So let's do our affirmation together and do it with the understanding that we are in the infinite universe, that we do have this power, that we are not limited, and that all the things that we've told ourselves we can't do, we can untell ourselves that so that we can do what we desire to do and let that thing that's within us out to be expressed. Are you ready? Here we go. Conscious that God is my host, daily I dine with the divine, receiving a full helping of good in all areas of my life. All right. It is our time to pray. Got it? How are you going to put it? All right. So this is our moment to speak the word of truth for anyone who's living through a situation that we know is available to that storehouse, to that smorgasbord, to reach down in there and to pull out the good, that's allowed them to feel a more expressed experience of life. If there's a sense of gratitude that you're feeling for life, we can speak that. If there's some condition in the world that you want to see change, we want to bring our spiritual energy to that idea. Speak that out into the room right now. So here we are. We're going to open up the room for collective prayer. Settling into the moment and allowing the God awareness place to inform the word I speak on behalf of our congregation, the friends, the community, extending out beyond the walls of this building. I'm so humbled by the opportunity to be that voice and to speak this truth. To know that there is only the one life that outpictures as love, that is infused and impelled by a law, compelled by a law into action, into manifestation, into reality, into the thing that came from the idea. So now we spend our time realizing the idea, unifying in consciousness to speak this word of truth that brings wholeness, well-being, right action, divine guidance, perfect employment, right living situation, houses that are looking to be sold or right now being bought by purchasers looking for homes. Health is being met by those that have dedicated their lives to the practice of wholeness and well-being and restoring that on a physical plane. Employers are right now sketching out that perfect right job that is calling you to that employer. So we're knowing that there is this melding together, this magnetic attraction of all that is necessary to all that is necessary to make what is good unfold. We know this is happening on the individual level, but it's also happening on the community level, it's happening on the national level and on the world level. So our leaders are right now seeing through the confusions of this side and that side to understand there's only one side, and that is the side of love. Our world leaders are seeing that there's not this country and that country, but there's one world. It looks at the moon, the same moon, no matter what place on the planet they are. When it's full in Australia, it's full in New York, it's full in Lisbon, it's full in Munich, it's full in Azerbaijan, it's full in Shanghai, it's full in Honolulu. There's just the one. And so understanding this one, I just feel so blessed to anchor ourselves in the truth that good is unfolded in all those situations by a law that always says yes, which we release this prayer to right now by saying, and so it is.